JRPGs set in schools seem to be more common than ever, and Monark is no exception. If done right, these have been among some of my favourite games. I do want to say up front that Monark touches on some heavier topics and leans a little into horror. Now, if you don't want any spoilers, skip ahead to the time on screen, or I will have chapters down in the description so you can skip ahead easily. So, will Monark stand out in a sea of JRPGs set in schools? Find out in this review.
Just try to keep me entertained.
Monark has a story full of characters that adds lots of layers to it, with it opening in a battle in which the main character will ultimately lose. Awakened from this, you discover this protagonist has lost all his memories. Oh, amnesia, my favourite JRPG plotline. Luckily, the rest of the story doesn't focus so much on regaining your memories and more on the characters and complex narratives within the school. Each character adding more layers to the story with their sinister agendas or dark backstories as you play through the game. Back to when you wake up, you learn that a barrier has trapped everyone in the school, and that throughout the school areas of mist have been appearing. The mist apparently is sending students mad and causing them to act differently. Just as you start to get an understanding of the situation, you're pulled into the other world. Here again, you face your demise, but instead you make a pact with a demon called Vanitas, and in turn become a pact bearer. Now, as a pact bearer, the school's dean asks you to assist in dispelling the mist, in which is caused by other student pact bearers, whose pacts relate to the 7 deadly sins. To do this, you must destroy 3 crystals for each of the students, and in turn set that area of the school currently under their reign free from their clutches. Monark's gameplay revolves around egos, and this is important. Many of the dialogue choices you make influence just how your character grows. From the very beginning of the game, you'll be asked a set of questions in which the answers fill the starting ego stats for your character. These ego stats are important as it affects the fiends you command. The higher the ego is with the associated fiend, the less restrictions you will have on what they can equip. It will also allow you to pick up crystals called alter egos. Alter egos permanently boost the stats of the entire party, even for members who haven't joined yet, so they are worth getting once your ego is high enough. Outside of the initial quiz you take, the ego stats can be raised from battles where small ego boosts are given, and from taking psychology tests. Talking to the other students outside the mist will unlock profile pages that explain a little bit about them. These aren't only for building out the world though. There are a number of puzzles that use some of this information from the profiles in order to solve.
Now enough with all this senseless prattle. Amuse me with your bloodlust in battle.
Okay, on to the battles. Battles are either encountered at set times during the story or from dialing contacts in your phone. You can also dial random numbers should you wish, but it is highly likely that the enemies you face from a cold call will be difficult to defeat. Before each battle, you will get a setup screen that shows the difficulty rating, the number of enemies, and allows you to adjust the party members you will use and their placements on the map. The combat itself is turn-based, where your party will get to move and then the enemies will take their turns. During your turn, you can use your party members in any order, with movement range and attack range shown by shaded circles around the selected character. I generally use my range attackers first, then finished with the closer ranged attacks or spells. And this is for good reason. If other party members are within attacking range of an enemy being targeted, they can perform an assist and do some extra damage during the attack. Each turn your character can action either basic attacks called arts, authorities which are like special attacks at the expense of increasing the madness gauge, or use items. You can also defer a turn, increasing your madness gauge but allowing a different party member that has already acted to go again. Finally, if you don't action anything and wait until the next turn, that character will get a small replenishment of health. If a character's madness gauge becomes maxed out at 100%, they can no longer be controlled. Now, this may not be a bad thing, as the character becomes stronger in all stats apart from defense, which is weakened. However, If 3 turns pass in this state of madness, the madness will consume them and cause them to have a breakdown in which they will be KO'd. Finally, there is an awakening gauge. If your character fills this up to 100%, you go into an awakened mode, which gives all their stats a buff, and they can use arts and authorities at no cost. Oh, and if the protagonist is KO'd, it is game over, and the battle will have to be restarted.
In any case, may fortune smile upon you in battle.
The leveling up system is interesting. Instead of leveling up from experience points, the party members level up each time an ability is unlocked. To unlock abilities, you require Spirit. Spirit is shared between all party members and is amassed from defeating enemies in battle or on occasion from finding it around the school. This is where a certain amount of grinding can come into it, as there is often a level jump for each of the story battles, and in turn this means you will need to jump into the optional battles to amass enough Spirit to raise the party members 1 or 2 levels in order to overcome the more difficult enemies. Although it is possible to defeat enemies higher level than your party, if you implement the correct strategic status effects and utilize the map if it has traps or healing points, it is often a lot easier just to grind and level up. Finally, you can also upgrade your Fiend's armor, which is called Vessels. This can not only give them status boosts, but also add extra skills and abilities into their arsenal, which can be helpful during battles. The music is all over the place. Scrolling through the tracks in the sound section of the game will help you understand what I mean. From tracks that are dark, mysterious and broody, to tracks with up-tempo jazz vibes, to vibrant yet suspenseful songs. There are even tracks with heavy rock influence, where the electric guitar can be heard shredding alongside what only can be an electric violin. So if anything, the music is varied, but not always cohesive with each other. Despite this, each individual track is wonderfully composed and well produced. There are also songs with vocals, which are sung all in Japanese. These give off a J-pop vibe. As for the voice acting, I think it was incredibly well done. You can choose between Japanese and English voice acting. I played through with the English voice cast, and each character felt relatable from the portrayal that the actors did for them. Minus Benita's talking in rhymes. After a while it did get irritating, but it is also commendable to the writers that they managed to have a rhyme to go with every scenario.
Though if you ask me, the fact that Miss Sora still looks so young is almost demonic in itself. What's her secret?
The visuals are not Monarch's strongest point. The character designs all look fine, minus some strange textures that you notice occasionally. I will say in battles where you get to see unique enemies, it is where they shine. Unfortunately, that is few and far between, and you'll be battling against many of the same uninspired enemies throughout the game. The environment building doesn't fare much better. It looks fine, but it just seems bland and uninspired for the most part. I understand that a school set in mist doesn't exactly allow for the most vibrant of colour palette, but seeing the same things repeatedly also doesn't make me excited to go to the next floor or the next part of the school. They did add a little bit of detail with the school notice boards having pops of colour, and that was really a nice touch. Onto the other world, and its visual design also feels recycled every time you enter, regardless of which ego it is for, and personally, I feel like it is a missed opportunity. So, for my thoughts on Monark, I think it's a good JRPG. It has some solid mechanics and a story that intrigued me enough to keep me going through those sections that required some grinding. And as most JRPG fans are accustomed to grinding in games, I don't think it actually detracts from the experience at all. However, with the visual design lacking any real inspiration for the enemies or the otherworld maps, it does drag down the game a little bit. I would recommend Monark to fans of tactical RPGs that don't mind grinding in games. With that, thank you for watching my review, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!